Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to Windrider and Family Theater Productions. When they invited me to come here, I was super honored and shocked that they'd seen the film and that they felt that it was worth bringing here and discussing. And I'm so grateful for that, to be able to be here. And I'm so grateful for my family, and especially my wife Desiree, who's here today, for living this with me. Dang it, I always cry. Such a baby. Um, for helping me put this experience of ours into a film. And I'd also like to thank everybody at AFI who helped me tell this story, and who mentored me, and who helped make this film possible. And I'd like to thank one of my collaborators was able to come, Brian Casey Lee, the composer of the film. I'd like to thank him as well, and all my collaborators who couldn't be here. They all brought so much to the story, and I couldn't have done it without them. So thank you so much, and just so happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
happy for you.
Do I sit? What do I
Yeah,
do
go
now?
ahead. Have a seat. And I'm Rebecca Jones, and I am a faculty member from Ouachita Baptist University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. And it's an honor to get to talk with you. Brett, congratulations on your win, and thank you for telling this story. I thought the idea of great stories that unlock the heart was so appropriate as a description. Why was it important to you to tell this story?
Well, as a big part of the curriculum at AFI, they talk a lot about not just how to make films, but why to make films and what to make films about. And so we talked a lot about what our point of view was as filmmakers. And one of my instructors, he would always say, your point of view is your values, is what you believe, and that's what you need to make films about. And so I wanted to make a film about something that I believed was deeply important, that came from my life experience, and to share that with other people.
Which, there's, when you're putting your own story or a story that reflects your family's experience out there, there's a vulnerability to that. Would you talk about that experience of making yourselves vulnerable through this work?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're called to do when you're a filmmaker. Is you have to be willing to accept that vulnerability and put yourself out there to tell real, authentic stories, because that's the only way that something's going to resonate. If you're willing to take the brunt of that and put it out there and share it with people, that's how people will be able to connect.
Well, and on the subject of loss, and this loss of a child can be a really difficult topic for people to talk about. In some cases, no one even knows. And so how have you seen that resonate with audiences and create spaces for conversations?
Yeah, that was an important aspect to making this film as well. So when my wife and I went through a miscarriage, we definitely felt alone. We definitely felt isolated. There's a lot of stigma that goes along with it that shouldn't. And so as we went through that experience, and as we started reaching out to other people, we started finding out, how common it is, and how many other people experience this, and how coming together during those times and talking about it during those times can really strengthen you and help you get through it. And so we've just, through the very start from this production all the way through finishing the film, and then through taking the film to festivals, we have just encountered so many people who have come up to me and said, hey, we experienced this as well, or we experienced something really similar, so thank you. Hopefully we're encouraging people to talk about miscarriage more, and so that people aren't alone and isolated when they experience that.
And I think that ability to bring the opportunity for conversation and healing is such a gift, and I appreciate that you've shared that. And as you began to develop this story and it was connected to your own personal story, how did you get to the idea of this representation of the black hole? Like, what was the line of thought that got you to this thing that pulls everything in and it drowns everything out?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a direct connection on the surface, right? So it took a little while to get to it, but I think I was searching for kind of a metaphor to tell this story. I think the power of film is subtext, and so I needed something that they could talk about, so that the issues that they were experiencing in their relationship and their fears that they were experiencing could be subtext, and so they could be trying to deal with something and figure something out. And that led me to kind of just a lot of the thoughts and feelings that I'd had when we were pregnant, when we were having a baby, that there's this kind of duality to it, that it feels cosmic. It's this, power of creation of human life that's happening that feels like a universe is being born. But there's also something like really kind of mundane and normal about it. Like people have been doing it for hundreds of years, and our ancestors did it in their caves and in their barns and in their tents. And so there's something just kind of primordial about it. So there's this kind of two sides to it, this like average and cosmic feeling to it. And so that's what I wanted to capture with the black hole, have this be something big, huge feeling, something that's out there in outer space that they can deal with. And then we also talked a lot about the concept of faith versus fear. And so over the course of the film, they're trying to move forward with faith and overcome that fear. And so a black hole, something that sucks everything in, felt like it fit well with that concept of fear, this fear showing up in their front yard, basically, and how they're going to deal with that fear. So that the blackness of it and the sucking power of it all felt a lot like how fear felt.
I thought it rang really true to the experience of grief and loss and the feelings related to that. So thank you. And so Joni and Kyle, they have pretty different reactions and responses. Would you kind of talk about your thought process and what you were trying to depict in the way they respond differently?
Yeah, I was trying to capture different ways that people react to this scenario, and definitely drawing from how my wife and I reacted. We're kind of a mix of all across the board of how Kyle and Joni reacted to the black hole, but trying to capture, it had to be realistic to like what would people really do if something showed up. So that was a lot of like, it couldn't just follow purely the metaphor. It had to follow also the reality of what if this thing appeared in their yard? How would they react to that? And mixing that with the emotions that they're dealing with under the surface. And so that was a lot of the focus of, how can they be acting truthfully to the scenario that we're presenting as truth, but also incorporating the real feelings that they're having about their intimate situation of their pregnancy.
And I loved the kind of the arc of, they go from the idea everything's going to be okay to later everything's going to be okay even if it's not. And so that was a really helpful, I think, piece to the film. And I want to open things up a little bit and invite the audience to ask some questions. And so I think we have a few minutes for that, and some microphones maybe in the room. Let's see, I see somebody right on the front here with a question.
I'm very grateful for the last shot of them coming through the black hole on the other side. Was that always, were you always excited to stick the landing there? Was there any debate of perhaps walking into the black hole was enough?
Yeah, a lot of people had during the development of the story and the script, a lot of people had questions about that. A lot of people questioned me on the ending, and I tried to really stick to my guns about that. Like, that's one of the first things I kind of saw in my mind was the ending. And so a lot of people asked, like, well, where's the dog? Should the dog show up at the end? I'm like, no, the dog's not showing back up at the end. So I really had to stick to my guns. A lot of dog lovers really wanted Samson to come back.
Poor Samson. I worried about him
He
too.
didn't. So yeah, there was a lot of talk about that. There's actually we had shot a scene that happens after that we ended up cutting because we felt that was the right ending for the film there. So thank you for. I'm glad you felt we stick the landing. I hope we did. Thank you.
Question. Let's see. I see somebody in the middle of the room here.
Thank you for the film. Can you talk to me about the W? Just to say that when the title came up at the end, that's when I started crying. When did you know that the title had a W?
I'd read something that said something along the lines of, like, a great title makes the audience ask a question of what the film's going to be about. And so that's what when I started working on the concept and on the story, I wanted the title to ask a question, or to create a question in the audience. And so it was like Black Hole was the first thing I came up with. And some of my collaborators asked me, is that the best title? Can we come up with something different? And I always said, if we can come up with something better, I'm open to that. And we just could never come up with something better. So Black Hole kind of stuck. And we were actually in a festival not that long ago where there was another film called Black Hole, but it was just H-O-L-E. So I was really grateful for the W in that circumstance as well. But yeah, I wanted the audience, to feel like there was something to be discovered right from the beginning.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, kind of in the back there.
Watching the film for a second time is even harder than watching it for the first time, because you just start crying from the very beginning. It's beautiful, Brett. My question isn't fair because I actually already know the answer to it, but in the scene where they're in the baby's room and they're painting baby names on the wall. Do any of those names have significance to you or to the crew that worked on the film? And if so, what did that add to the film for you and your crew?
Yeah, there's some Easter eggs in there. So he's a plant, by the way. I know him. So thanks for lobbing up a good one. Yes, there's some Easter eggs in the film. So some of them are the names in the room. So Brahm, our oldest child, his name is in the room, and he's the child that we were pregnant with after we'd had a miscarriage in the past, and that kind of inspired this whole story, this experience. So his name's in there, and then also he's one of the ultrasound pictures. And then our other child, Boz, who's a year and a half, he's one of the other ultrasound pictures. And then it was fun to open that up to talk to my other collaborators about who wanted to contribute to those names on the list. And so my producer, who I worked with really closely, Jessica Hess, her parents had a miscarriage before she was born, and so that's how she connected with the script. And so one of the names on there is the name that her family was going to name that child before they had the miscarriage.
Question. We have another question.
Hey, thanks so much for sharing your film with us. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm curious about the sort of the intentionality behind the metaphorical significance of the different ways in which we see either the characters or different objects sort of relating with the black hole, like the dog trying to dump the dirt into the black hole. Was he trying to bury it? I'm just a little bit curious about sort of your intentionality behind the metaphor of those things.
Yeah, some stuff kind of came from, what would somebody do if they encountered this, right? So throwing stuff at it is something that we thought people would do, so we wanted to include that. And then specifically with Kyle, kind of the things that he does, I had this idea of, he's trying to fix things. He's trying to, brute force fix things in the way that he can. And so people ask me a lot about him shooting it. I'm really glad it got 2 laughs this time. It usually only gets 1 laugh after he shoots it, but you guys laughed when you saw the gun, and so that made me really happy to get 2 laughs in that scene. But just kind of the idea that he's trying everything he can. The most powerful thing he can think of to do is shoot it, right? Just because that's his mentality. And then maybe if I dump a bunch of dirt, so it's just for him it was, what can I do to try and solve this problem physically without actually dealing with the issues? And so Joni has to kind of drag him into actually dealing with their issue. And then the dog Samson, that was something we wanted to show the real danger level of this going unconfronted, and also why Samson doesn't come back at the end is because he goes into the hole with fear. He's trying to attack the hole. He's going into it with fear, but at the end the couple go into it with faith, and so they're able to come through the other side. So that's why the dog doesn't come back. Sorry, dog lovers.
Let me see if there's somebody over on this side of the room. Okay, there's somebody standing kind of back there. Here we go.
You pulled incredible acting out of those 2. Talk about how you were able to do that. They were very, very compelling.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a common comment that I've been getting about the film is the performances, and I don't take any credit for that. I really don't. We worked really hard on casting, and when we found Charlie, who plays Joni in the film, I'd seen her in like a music video that she was in a long time ago, and when I was casting a different project, I thought, oh, she could be good for it, and then we never got around to contacting her. We found somebody else really quickly for that other project, and then for this one, I thought about her. We were auditioning a few people, and we had some good auditions, but then I messaged her, and she messaged back saying, I don't really do student films anymore. And she said, but send me the script. So I sent her the script, and she said, okay, I'll audition for it. And so that made me feel really good. But then she just brought so many things that we didn't expect to the role. She just brought a real life to it and a real 3-dimensionality. And she brought more humor to her, and she brought more spunk to her that just really stood out in the auditions. And so we knew right away after we did one reading with her, we knew that she was the one for this. And then Corey was somebody that I'd known before, and some of my other colleagues at AFI had worked with him before, and so we put them together. And what we loved is that she keeps him on his toes. She will do unexpected things, and she will react unexpectedly that forces him to really listen and really react. So she kept him really engaged throughout the whole process. So it was all them. I think I hardly gave them any notes. I hardly went over 3 takes with the both of them. So it was great.
Excellent. Other questions? I think we have just a couple more minutes.
Can you speak about the isolation and the loneliness that's portrayed, both between the couple themselves and no one around them to support them in this journey.
Yeah, the isolation idea was twofold. At first, it was trying to recreate how we felt being isolated and not talking to anybody about this and nobody knowing for a long time. And so putting them in an isolated situation was a big part of that they would just have to deal with it together. And then the other part of it was practical of like if they had a bunch of neighbors around, everybody was saying like, well, can other people see the black hole and what would they do? And does everybody have a black hole in their yard? So there was a lot of questions that kind of spiraled into a feature film idea. And so we really had to focus it into, just their world and not going outside of their world. So putting them in a place where people couldn't really see what was going on was a part of that as well.
Okay, let's go in the way back.
Throughout this whole process, like overall, how long did it take to make such an incredible short film? Like, I imagine this, with it being very personal, you wanted to like take your time with it, but at the same time, some people, if it's if it's really inspiring and they want to, they'll just like hit the ground running with it. So overall, what was your time frame with it?
Yeah, it took too long, way too long. So we were interrupted by COVID through the development of the film. So I came up with the original concept and pitched the story to the other students at AFI in the summer of 2020. And then we kind of started development on it. I started working on it. And then we were originally scheduled to shoot in February 2021. And so we had some development time and some writing time to work on that. And then because COVID got much worse that winter again, we had to push, and then we had to push even more, and then we had to push again because we were having our second baby, and so we had to push it then. So we ended up shooting in September, and then it took a while to get through post just because everything was really busy in LA at that point. So it took about a year and a half to from conceptualization to finishing the film.
Okay, we'll wrap up with one last question. I have one last question for you. When we met on the first night, you said filmmaking is a family affair. You brought your family here to the festival, and we have a lot of aspiring filmmakers in the audience. And I just wondered if you might talk about the value of family and community as an artist and a storyteller. What is the significance of that to you?
Yeah, I definitely love to make it I call it a family sport sometimes, and so I love to have family come to the set and get them involved. It's just fun to like take your kids to work is really fun and neat, and I want them to be able to experience that. And also, I mean, it's what it's all about for me. So there's different kind of like opinions about it in LA in the film industry of like family or this is professional. But I think the more that I make my family a part of my filmmaking, like that's what I'm doing it for. And my ultimate definition of success is to have a happy family, not necessarily to be the best filmmaker in the world. And so ideally both would be great, but that's what I care about most.
Well, I think probably I'd like to ask the audience to say thank you to you and your family
Thank you
for
all.
your work, for this story, and congratulations.